Now, I think this case in Western New York is probably one of the more infamous murders that has come from this area. As you see in the title and thumbnail, this case is all about a young 4-year-old boy named Derek Robie who was murdered by 13-year-old Eric Smith. You guys have probably seen Eric Smith's face, his red hair, plastered on different news outlets, TV stations, etc. It was a pretty wild case. So I'm actually here in Savona, New York. This is the little town where this whole murder took place. I'm gonna walk through the cemetery, show you little Derek's grave, but also show you guys where he was murdered at. So let's get into it. So this horrific murder happened on August 2nd, 1993. Again, in this very small town of Savona, New York. 4-year-old Derek Robie was walking from his house to the nearby park where they had some sort of like summer camp going on. His house was only 1 block away from the park, so his mother decided to let him go on his own, as it was, again, right down the street. She later testified that this was the first time that she let Derek go anywhere by himself. And she said that little Derek, even though he was 4, she said that he knew where the park was, and so she felt safe about that. Unfortunately though, on that day, Derek ran into Eric Smith. Now, Eric had lured Derek into a wooded area right by this park. He promised to show him like a shortcut in order to get to the park a little bit faster. When they were alone, he strangled Derek and beat him to death with some rocks. Now, as you can imagine, when Robie did not return back home, his parents filed a missing persons report. But only hours later, after Robie was killed, some searchers found his body just yards away from the park. Now, residents, of course, were absolutely terrified. They were scared that, you know, some stranger had come through their town. Now, a family friend of Eric Smith's was growing concerned as Eric's behavior was getting a little bit out of control. And on the night of the murder, Eric asked a family friend what would happen if whoever killed Derek was a child. And the family friend said, "I think that they would need some serious psychiatric help." And Eric's responded with, "Oh, okay." The family friend remembered that Eric had gone to the same park right by the crime scene. And so she put 2 and 2 together and thought, oh man, what if Eric was involved in Derek's murder in some fashion? The family friend called Eric's mom and told her what she had thought. And so they decided to take Eric into the police station for some questioning. When the investigators started talking to Eric, he seemed almost enjoying speaking about the murder, like he didn't want it to end. And at first he did deny ever seeing Derek Robie that day, but eventually he cracked and confessed. August 1994, Eric, 14 years old now, was tried as an adult and sentenced to 9 years to life in prison. Now, what you'll find potentially irritating or frustrating or even make you angry is the fact that Eric Smith is now a free man. He was released from prison not that long ago. October 2021, he went before the parole board for the 11th time. During this parole hearing, Eric revealed that he had future plans involving a new fiance. He said that I'm not a threat anymore. He said that the 13-year-old me back then is totally different than the me now. Eric was released around November of 2021. Now, Eric kind of explains why he killed Derek in the first place. And he said that he had anger at that young age. He said that he was angry as he was always picked on or bullied. And so he said that his anger wasn't directed at Derek at all. It was actually directed at all the other guys or kids that used to pick on him. And so he said that he essentially took out his anger, his frustration of being bullied, out on poor little Derek, who literally had nothing to do with Eric Smith in the slightest, and just happened to be walking down the same path that Eric was and bumped into him. Eric continued by saying that when he was torturing and killing Derek, he said that that is what I saw in my head, was all these other kids picking on me. And he says that you can label me whatever you want, a monster, cold-blooded killer, a demon child, but that's not who I am, he says. All right, so Derek Robie would have been walking down this street where I am on right now. So I'm gonna flip the camera around. I'll kind of show you guys kind of the pathway he walked. So he would have been coming from his house, which again would have been a block, literally 1 block down the road. He would have been coming down this direction towards the park, which again, literally the park in town where they would have had every kind of event you can think of. Again, if I had my drone, it would make things a lot easier trying to match all this up. I'm super happy that they built this little memorial though for him. Again, he was a t-ball player and absolutely loved to play baseball. It's an absolutely precious little statue memory. Now, what I think is just so heartbreaking about this case is the fact that he was 4 years old. I have a niece who's about that age, so it breaks my heart knowing that, you know, someone that young, someone who literally just started living their lives, could be wiped out in a matter of moments, and especially by someone who should have been in elementary school or middle school. And as I said earlier, you know, Eric Smith can say whatever he wants. He can claim to be changed man, which maybe he is, which, you know, good for him if that's true. But it doesn't take the fact that he took a young, innocent 4-year-old boy's life who was simply just coming here to this field for a fun day at the park. And again, I just feel absolutely terrible for his mom, who again let him go on his own for the first time. So should have been just a few minutes walk, but it turned into a nightmare. Now, she said that it had started pouring down rain not that long after Derek left for the baseball field here. And so she said that when that happened, when the pouring rain started, she felt in her heart that is when Derek was murdered. All right, guys, just talked to a very nice gentleman local here who actually is from Savona here. Now, he said that back then, again, 1993, this field right here was not even here. This was all woods. So imagine woods all throughout here. And they actually built that specific baseball field in memory of Derek. This might be hard to tell, but the baseball field is right there. Now, with looking more at the pictures I saw online, the one of the helicopter, you know, overhead shot, if you will, of the crime scene, you'll see the baseball field, like kind of at this angle, and then you'll see a patch of woods, and then like a clearing, and that matches up to be right about here. So essentially, kind of right in the middle of the screen is where Derek was murdered, pretty close to this little garden area, which I kind of went by earlier. I know it's hard to tell on my camera, but the walkway up to the statue is right there. The other baseball field is right there. But again, rest in peace to little Derek. You'll never be forgotten. We'll see you guys soon though.